everybody, and welcome to part 2 of What If Superboy Was in MHA, a series no one will watch, or at least that's what I expect, but hope to be surprised. Yeah. That said, I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Please like, subscribe, check out my Discord, watch other videos after, you know, all that stuff YouTube wants you to do to make me successful, because I want to reach 10K before the end of the year. Yeah. That said, please enjoy this video, and yeah, you can get your snacks, whatnot, or just put me as background noise and do anything you want, but after that intro. Well, Father, I did it. I did what you wanted me to do. I took the UA entrance exam for recommended students and passed. Of course, that was to be expected, says Damian. I'm sorry it took me so long to come and tell you. I've been busy with all the preparations and other such affairs. Damian stops to look at the tomb of his father, next to those of his father's parents. First my mother, then you, and then Grayson. You all did a good job preparing me for this moment. I just wish you could have stuck around a bit longer, continues Damian. Some tears fill his eyes and they start flowing. School starts next week. Before you know it, I'll be a great hero, Father. The next Batman. As he says these words, Damian finds himself remembering, reliving the moment his father died. 6 years ago, Damian was 9 years old. He couldn't sleep, so he went down to the Batcave. Master Bruce, you can't do this! There has to be another way! Screamed Alfred at the Batcomputer, tears flowing from his eyes. There's no other way, Alfred. Superman is currently in Africa. It'll take him too long to get here. Even if he was here, there seems to be a kryptonite engine in the bomb. He wouldn't make it. The world needs a Superman more than it needs a Batman, says Bruce, while in another part of Gotham he loaded a kryptonite bomb into the Batwing. Then why not set the Batwing to autopilot or allow the remote piloting to work? Asked Alfred. Alfred, you know damn well why, said Bruce while boarding the Batwing and flying into space. I understand, sir. It's been an honor, says Alfred. Alfred, I'm diverting all the power to the thrusters. I need to make it out of the atmosphere or the consequences will be dire, said Bruce. Thanks for taking care of me. You are like a father to me and I truly appreciate all you've done. I love you too, sir, said Alfred. Oh, and tell Damian... The connection was lost, and moments later in the sky, an explosion occurred. I will, Master Bruce, said Alfred, looking down at the floor as tears flowed from his eyes. Damian looked at the monitor, his eyes widened in shock. He'd witnessed many things before, like when the League of Assassins was defeated and dismantled when he was 6. But he never thought he'd see his father, Batman, die. Nightwing rushed into the Batcave and jumped out of his motorcycle, not parking it correctly. I'm here! I made it as fast as I could. Please tell me I'm not too late, he said. Alfred turned to him with tears in his eyes, so Nightwing went in for a hug. When leaving the hug, Nightwing noticed a gaze. Hey, little D, he said. Isn't it a bit past your bedtime? Don't patronize me, Grayson, responded Damian. Master Damian, I think it's time we get going. Our flight leaves in less than an hour, says Alfred, snapping Damian back to reality. Right. Goodbye, Father. Rest well, says Damian as he leaves the Wayne cemetery. Days pass. During this time, Damian moves into a new apartment in Japan, near his school. At the same time, the Kents do something similar with Lois and John finishing their move. The first day of school arrives and everyone goes to the first day of class excited. Have a nice day, John, says Lois as her son leaves the house. I will, he says. He takes a train and then walks for a couple minutes. While walking to school, he spots a kid playing with a ball. The ball falls into the street and the boy goes after it, with a car coming behind him. The boy looks at the car coming for him, stunned for a moment. John reacts to the situation, rushing in and pushing the boy out of harm's way, falling onto the pavement as a result, getting his clothes dirty. "You okay?" he asks. "Yeah, thanks, mister," answers the boy. After walking a bit more, John finds himself in front of the gates of UA. "Well, this is it," he whispers to himself. "A journey of 1,000 steps begins with the first." John walks to his classroom, seeing many students walking around the school. When he reaches his classroom, he opens the door, spotting about 12 people inside. "Oh, look, it's the super brat," comments a boy with spiky blonde hair, seeing him. Excuse me? That's not a really nice thing to call someone," responds John. "Whatever, it's what you are," scoffs Bakugo. John looks around the room, spying many different people. "Oh, hey, Damian," says John, walking towards his old friend. "Hello, John. How have you been?" asks Damian. "I've been doing pretty well. After all, I did manage to get in here," answers John. "What about you? How have you been? How did you even get into this school? I didn't see you in the entrance exam." "I myself have been doing pretty well. As for how I got into the school, it's pretty simple," says Damian. "I entered through a specialized exam made for students who are recommended. I was honestly surprised to not see you there." "Oh yeah, forgot about that. My dad meant to send a letter of recommendation, but ended up forgetting because of all the things he had to do. So I had to take the regular exams," explains John. "The height of a responsibility," comments Damian. They talk a bit longer. While they do, a student with blue hair and glasses walks into the class. He spots the spiky-haired boy and they get into an argument, which only stops when a green-haired boy enters the classroom. Shortly after, a man in a sleeping bag appears, creeping out many of the students. "Welcome to UA's hero course," he says after taking a sip of his juice. This creeps the class out. Everyone shuts up. He stands up, takes the sleeping bag off, saying, "It took 8 seconds before you all shut up. That's not gonna cut it. Time is precious. Rational students would understand that." After a moment of silence, the man turns to his class and introduces himself. "Hello, I'm Shota Aizawa, your homeroom teacher." He pulls out a sports uniform from his bag and continues. "These are your sports uniforms. Put them on and meet me outside." The class obeys their teacher and heads to the PE grounds. There, Aizawa proceeds to explain that they'll be doing a Quirk Apprehension exam. The students don't seem to understand the concept, so Aizawa turns to John and says, "Jonathan Kent, you managed to get the most points in the entrance exam. What was your farthest throw with a softball when you were in junior high?" "I'm pretty sure it was something like 265 feet, which is about 81 meters, answers John. "Now try that with your quirk," Aizawa orders. John gets in the circle, winds up to throw, and releases. The ball goes flying through the air, landing 823.4 meters away. Aizawa shows the score, and the class gets excited at the prospect of being able to use their quirks as much as they want. Aizawa manages to turn the happy atmosphere into a more serious one by explaining that the one with the worst score will be expelled. Some students complain about the fact, but that causes Aizawa to explain that the world is full of unfairness, and that's a hero's job to combat that unfairness. The tests start with the first being the 50-meter dash. In this test, Ida runs as fast as he can, managing to complete the dash in 3.04 seconds. "Ha! Is that the best you got?" states Wallace West. "What are you talking about? That's the best score so far," comments Zero. "If you think you can do better, go right ahead," answers Ida to the taunt. "Just watch me," says Wallace. He's the next one to step up to the plate along with Megan. He manages to complete it in 0.98 seconds. "Man, I'm slow today," says Wallace as the class looks at him flabbergasted at the speeds he just went at. In this exercise, John manages to finish it in 1.35 seconds and Damian himself in 5.55 seconds. Edith steps from the encounter a bit disappointed. Two of his classmates having beaten him at his own game. After is the strength grip test. Here John manages to get a score of 905.2 kilograms and Damian of 80.3 kilograms. In the long jumps, many students such as Megan, John, Wallace, Bakugo, and others manage to jump past the sandbox, whereas others land in it. Damian, for example, may have landed in the sandbox, but made it quite far, getting a score of 6.21 meters by summoning a staff and using it to jump further. After is the repeated sidestep jumps, where both students manage to get a decent score. Then it's the softball throw. Having already taken the tests, John sits back and watches. Damian throws the ball 102.3 meters. After him, Bakugo steps up to the plate, throwing the ball 705.2 meters. A couple more contestants step up, such as Uraka, who throws the ball into the stratosphere, and Megan, who levitates the ball into the air in a way it won't fall for 5 kilometers, mainly using her telekinesis. The next to step up to the plate is the green-haired boy, Izuku Midoriya. He tries to use his quirk, but his quirk gets cancelled out before he can. Aizawa gives him a small talking to, which leads Izuku to push himself. Focusing all of his power into one finger, he ends up throwing the ball 705.3 meters. Impressive, notes Damian while Bakugo tries to attack Izuku, being stopped by Aizawa. Kinda reminds you of a certain symbol of peace. Yeah, says John watching. He's strong, but he gets hurt when using his quirk. More of a double-edged sword than anything useful. After that test comes the distance run, then the seated toe touch, and finally the sit-ups. After they're all done, the class gathers a bit nervous, thinking that the one who got in last place is going to get expelled. Aizawa says, "Alright, time to give you your results. I rank you all from best to worst. You should probably have a good idea of your standing already. I'll just pull out the whole list. It's not worth going over each individual score." He hits the button on a remote and the score comes up in a holographic screen, which you should be able to see now on screen. After the scores are shown, Aizawa comments, "And I was lying. No one's going home. That was just a rational deception to make sure you gave it your all in the tests." The whole class sighs in relief. John raises his hand and asks, "Excuse me, sir, why are you lying to us? When you said that before that you were going to expel the one who came last, you were serious. Now I'm not totally sure about your demeanor, but do know you intended to expel who came last." "I have my reasons for changing my mind. It'll be obvious to you in time, but for now, go to class and pick up a syllabus. The day is over. Go home, everyone. Midoriya, you stop by the nurse's office first," comments Aizawa. The next day, the students return to school. They go through all their normal courses. At lunch, John sits down with Damian, who's already sitting with Maya. They talk a bit through the lunch break, wondering what their first hero class will be like. The bell rings and the students return to class. After a bit of waiting, All Might suddenly bursts into the room shouting, "I am here! Coming in through the door like a hero!" Excited, the class reacts to the number one hero's entrance. "Why, I can't believe it's All Might," says Kaminari, followed by Kirishima shouting, "So he really is a teacher! This year's gonna be awesome." "Hey look, he's wearing his Silver Age costume," says Tsuyu. "So cool, that's one of my favorites," comments Megan. All Might takes the stand and says, "Welcome to the most important class of UA High. Think of it as Heroing 101. Here you'll learn the basics of being a pro and what it means to fight in the name of good. I'd like to just jump into today's lesson, but first I have an introduction to make." He points at the door, which then opens, with a man wearing a black skin-tight suit with blue elements coming in. "Hey everyone, I'm Richard Grayson, Nightwing," he says, presenting himself. Nightwing is here as a sort of teacher's assistant. He is here to help train you students to be the best you can be, explains All Might. I originally wanted to take the role of Class 1A's teacher, calling in a couple favors, but that didn't work out for multiple reasons, comments Nightwing. Of course he'd be babysitting me here too, says Damian. Right, with that out of the way, let's get into it, says All Might. Today's lesson will pull no punches! He pulls out a sign reading combat, which excites the class. Pushing a small button, All Might shouts, but one of the keys of being a hero is looking good! Some stands come out of the wall holding cases that contain the hero suits. These contain your costumes. They are assigned depending on your class number and contain costumes that were designed with your custom requests and quirks in mind, comments Nightwing. We have a lot planned for you today, so put those on and meet us at Training Ground Beta. The students grab their costumes and head to the changing room. While going to the training ground, Nightwing comments, you know, if you find yourself reaching your time limit, you can always let me know and I'll take over, okay? Don't push yourself too much, especially now that you've passed down one for all. Thank you very much, Richard, but I want to be able to teach these heroes in the making and see what they're made of. And I'd appreciate it if you mentioned one for all as little as possible, says All Might in response. After a bit of waiting, the students enter Ground Beta wearing their hero costumes. John comes in wearing a Superman-like suit that mixes in black, red, and blue, having yellow only in the crest and other little highlights. He also has a cape flowing from his back. Damian comes in wearing his classic Robin costume, a costume that mixes in green, red, black, and yellow, with a black cape with a small hood, for more covert missions. Maya Duncan comes in wearing a skin-tight plated suit, which is white and black in color with some small pink highlights. Megan comes out of the gates wearing a black skin-tight suit with a red X down the middle of it and a blue cape with a hood. Wallace comes out of the gates wearing the classic Kid Flash suit, but modified to include a bit more silver. I see you're wearing your Robin costume, comments John. It's a rite of passage, Superboy. In our family, you have to use the Robin identity until you graduate for some reason, says Damian in response. That said, we are allowed to modify our equipment and costume design in certain parameters. Now that you're all here, it's time for the combat training to start, shouts All Might. Ida raises his hand and asks, Sir, this is the model saved from our entrance exam. Does this mean we'll be conducting urban battles again? Not exactly, answers Nightwing. We'll be separating you into teams of two. One team will be the heroes and the other the villains. I just want to remind you, you're just the aide here, says All Might. Oh, sorry if I'm overstepping, says Nightwing. All Might turns to the class and explains further. Most of the fights you see on the news are outside, but statistically speaking, they're more likely to happen indoors. Think about it. Backroom deals, home invasions. Truly intelligent villains stick to the shadows. All Might and Nightwing are then asked a bunch of questions, which they answer by explaining the exercises in detail. Afterwards, lots are drawn to determine the teams and their opponents. In this version of events, the matchups are Midori and Uraraka vs. Bakugo and Ida, Todoroki and Shoji vs. Wallace and Megan, Tokoyami and Tsuyu vs. Kirishima and Sato, Kaminari and Jiro vs. Mineta and Zero, and Damian and John vs. Ashido and Maya. Alright, the Super Sen's together again, says John after the teams get decided. I would appreciate it if you didn't call us that, comments Damian. After that interaction, All Might gets the students participating in the exam situated while Nightwing takes the rest of the monitoring room. The students watch the first match. They watch as Midori gives his all, sacrificing his well-being in order to win the match. Ida gets crowned the MVP, with Damian explaining why exactly that is. They move on to the next set. The match starts and Shoji uses his quirk to locate his opponents, informing Todoroki of their location. Todoroki warns him to stay outside and freezes the whole building. Wallace gets trapped by the ice. He tries to get out, but with how cold he is, finds himself unable to use his powers. Megan shifts through the ice, escaping easily. She puts on her hood, becoming semi-transparent. She then phases through the ground, going after Todoroki. When she gets close, Todoroki senses her and shoots an ice blast at her. But having used a lot of his ice already, his movements are sluggish, so Megan manages to evade. She uses her telekinesis to levitate Todoroki off the ground, thus blocking him from using his ice, and she then uses the capture tape on him. She then goes after Shoji, but he manages to see her coming. He tries to catch her, but she phases through his attempts until time runs out. The villains end up winning. The third match is Tokoyami and Tsuyu versus Kirishima and Zero, which the heroes managed to win by using their teamwork and long-range attacks to their advantage. The fourth match is Kaminari and Jiro against Mineta and Zero. The villains managed to win by capturing the heroes using their quirks. The fifth match is John and Damian against Maya and Ashido. Before the match starts, both teams start strategizing, deciding how to handle the battle. "So what are you planning?" asks John, knowing full well how Damian thinks. "We have two opponents. Maya will try to sneak behind us and capture us using the capture tape. They'll leave the acid girl defending, at least if they're smart. Once Maya is taken care of, we can easily take her down," explains Damian, as he keeps thinking. "You haven't manifested any more powers, have you?" "Aside from my quirk, I'm still only at super strength, speed, and heat vision," answers John. "We'll make do," says Damian. Moments later, the exercise begins. The two students enter the building. John walks through the hallways with a very carefree attitude, while Damian, next to him, has his guard up. After reaching the second floor, an invisible entity approaches from behind. Damian turns around, summoning a batarang and shooting it at Maya. He hits her in the shoulder. Blood comes out of the middle of nowhere, and she's forced to reveal herself. "Ah, that hurt!" she exclaims, charging up an attack. She shoots an energy blast at Damian that's enhanced with a sonic attack. John pushes Damian out of the way, tanking the hit and being thrown back. Damian uses his quirk to summon a katana. He slashes at Maya. She jumps back, trying to evade all the slashes. Damian then summons and throws a smoke bomb, managing to take advantage of his surroundings and his enemy's inexperience to get the better of her. He manages to sweep the legs and pin her to the ground, immobilizing her. Once the smoke clears, John steps up, binding her with the binding cloth, thus eliminating her from the exercise. The duo then heads to the weapons room. John slams the door open, zooming in. He tries to touch the weapon, but ends up tripping over a small hole that Ashido made with her acid. There are a bunch across the room. Ashido tries to use the capture tape on John, but Damian throws a batarang at her, blocking her. He then rushes at her, ready to take her down. Ashido tries to defend herself, but in the time that Damian was keeping her busy, John touched the weapon, winning the exercise. After the exercise, Ida tries his best to point out their mistakes, but All Might and Nightwing have to step in to fill the gaps. The school day thus comes to an end, and the students go home with a whole bunch of dangers ahead of them. And that's the end of the video. Hope you guys are enjoying this episode. So far, we're in the setup phase because the real payoff to my whole universe stuff only comes later, with interesting stuff being revealed when it comes. I hope you guys enjoy when it actually arrives, that information. But it's going to be pretty cool, I think. I mean, little bits and pieces have already been hinted at in one or two videos. So, yeah. So far, I have to say that I'm really enjoying this series. I've added some characters a bit of random to both Class 1A and Class 1B. Hence, Garfield Logan is in Class 1B, along with Donald Troy and Stargirl. I just thought it would be interesting. I like mixing universes together like I did with the Spider-Man What If. Originally, in the previous version of this, Yaoyorozu and everyone in Class 1A stayed the same because it focused on these people being Class 1B. But since you guys voted to have everyone in Class 1A now, which I was already thinking about because people don't want to watch Class 1B, then I did that. And because Damian comes in recommendations, I had to either get rid of him or Todoroki. I had to either get rid of Yaoyorozu or Todoroki, and because I like Todoroki more, and I feel like he's more important plot-wise, Yaoyorozu is now in Class 1B. Sorry, everyone who likes her in Class 1A. Sorry about that. Still, I hope I can deliver a good story with this stuff, even though this is probably the second episode. I don't expect the series to do too well, since the last version of this series only has 2,000 views in the first episode, which is a lot, but seeing that usually the episode after that amount of time reaches at least 6,000, it really underperformed my expectations and hurt me a bit because I really liked making it. This time around, I have things kind of mapped out how they're gonna go and things planned out. So even if no one watches it, it's gonna happen, at least until a certain point, because again, there's in part 10 of this series, there's going to be an important thing happening that will lead into something else, and then later more stuff will happen. I am way too crazy for this stuff. I come up with ideas and want to set them up properly. Hope you guys enjoy the execution. Please like, subscribe, check my Discord, watch more videos and all that. You can probably see videos advertised right now on screen, so click one of those. And that said, have a nice day, everyone. Bye!